Good evening. Good evening. I'm audible and visible. Yes, great. I'm good. We'll wait for 2-3 minutes for everyone to join in. Then we start our discussion for today. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Not necessarily, Ankit. I will repeat it, but it would have been good if you had attended the Monday class. Not like that, Sai. All perfect. Good evening, good evening. I will repeat what we did on Monday. Basic gist. Then we'll talk about the last event out of that 4 event circle. Then we look at the PPT, and then we'll start the First World War. Today's agenda is very straightforward. First World War, and we will reach till the Treaty of Versailles. Treaty of Versailles, whatever you want to call it, and therefore create the context for next week, or next class, 2-3 classes, which is next would be the Russian Revolution and the ideologies. Very interesting. Yes, tomorrow there will be class. No holidays there hereafter. 27, 28, 29, 30th, all classes as always. No issues, Ankit. Should not be a problem. Concentrate. We'll wait 1 more minute. Vijay, what do you mean by that? Already I began World War number 3. There are 2 world wars. Then when is the third one? Okay. So just to refresh your memory of what we did previously, we discussed the Eastern question. We finished the Eastern question, which is very simply, doesn't matter, Saurabh, interrelated but are independent to each other. First world history should be there, then international relations, but doesn't really matter. So we discussed Eastern question, which was what will happen to Eastern Europe if and when the Ottoman Empire is going to decline. And thereafter, we discussed certain tendencies which were developing in Europe generally. And the contradictory answer to the Eastern question, we were able to see in 4 events, and we discussed 3 out of them. And 3 basic tendencies we were able to see or map on Europe through the Serbian Revolution, or the Serbian War of Independence as it is called. Thereafter, the Greek freedom struggle. And last but not the least, the Crimean War. Now, to give you a brief recap of what we did on Monday vis-a-vis these things, and we will then read everything out of the PPT itself. Bhumika, refresh. I think there is no issue. I think everything's fine. I have a preview there, so I know everything's fine. The point is, we started with the Serbian War of Independence, and when we discussed Serbian War of Independence, we were able to understand how the Serbians fought for their independence, and whilst doing that, they were not helped by anyone, and this in turn led to the Serbians feeling that they were not important in the European community generally, and its symbolic brother in a way, Russia, also did not help. But this becomes more evident, more compounded if you look it through the Greek War of Independence. Because when we talk about the Greek War of Independence, Greece for a very long time tried to get its independence but was not able to. And whilst between this period of 18, this 13, 14, and thereafter till 20s, it was not able to find a way to get Ottoman Empire to give its freedom to Greece itself. So in 2022, they were trying for close to 9 to 10 years to get independence, which was not coming through. And in the context of the Greek War of Independence, Russia intervened in order to get a pro-Greece or access to the Mediterranean through the Greece sector. And because Russia responded, Britain and Great Britain and France also responded. And therefore, Great Britain, France, Russia, all big powers, great powers, now gave Greece or Greeks their independence on a platter in order to make sure that they can balance each other or neutralize each other's effect. So the two tendencies we saw out of the Serbian War of Independence and the Greek War of Independence was, first, that the Serbians in a way started to hate the West because of the fact that nobody came to its very simple, straightforward, what we call as help. And on the other hand, we saw the second one, which is basically the concept of big powers or great powers were getting involved in what we call as were getting involved in local and regional events. And the last thing which we saw was the Crimean War, wherein the Ottoman Empire, which was quite big, holding on to parts of the Central Asian sector itself. The simple point was that Ottomans argued that there's an area which was claimed to be Christian, but what type of Christianity really mattered. Half and half had been decided. However, that was not enough for Nicholas I. And once Nicholas I asked the Ottomans to reconsider the discussion or reconsider the decision, Russia responded by attacking the Ottomans. And the same Ottoman Empire, which had fought the other big powers previously, the simple point is Ottomans, the British, and the French will now fight on one side against Russia, and Russia will be defeated. And the Treaty of Paris, everything will be given back, and we will discuss the concept of demilitarization of the Black Sea itself. However, the basic tendency which comes out of this is no compromise, and war is the solution of everything. Of everything. When I say great powers, I mean Russia, France, Britain, Austria, Germany, Italy. These are the big powers. Basically, the big powers which we discussed vis-a-vis the French Revolution or the Russian or the what we call as American Revolution. So America we don't count in this. We're only talking about Europe right now. Russia, France, Britain, the Austrian sector, Germany, and Italy are the great powers. So very simply, the conclusion which we came to out of these three events, one, two, and three, is that Serbia, and this is going to become very important, Serbians don't, or rather, Serbians feel frustrated and betrayed. Second, no compromise. No compromise. The second in the sequence is going to be big powers or great powers getting involved in regional issues, and no compromise war is the solution. This is what we've done on Monday. Yes or no? Anybody has any issue here? These are the 3 points which we discussed. Anjana, whatever we've done till this point is very simply what we've done on Monday, which is out of the 3 events which I discussed with you, Serbian War of Independence, Greek War of Independence, and third, which is the concept of Crimean War, we came up with 3 tendencies which were at play here, which is Serbians feel frustrated and betrayed, big powers or great powers getting involved in regional issues, and no compromise. War is the solution for everything, as proved through the Crimean War. Crimean War could have been very simply avoided by just a basic compromise, either on the part of the Russians or the part of the Ottomans or the part of the French in that regard, but nobody was ready to do that. Regional issues here generally means that Greece getting independence or Greek independence is a very small issue vis-a-vis the issues of the larger, what we call as politics of the European sector. So very simply, 3 straightforward points: Serbians, big power, no compromise. Are we now clear with regards to this? Because I want to move forward and discuss the concept of how we move towards the First World War. Yes? Yes? Great. Okay. Now, one event which I did not discuss with you on that day is called the Great Eastern Crisis. The Great Eastern, you don't have to remember the names, don't have to remember the years. Just remember the basic time period. Nobody is going to ask you a question on any of these events. Everything is to explain the causes of the First World War. So don't have to remember the names of the or even the name of the people who are involved. Just remember the sequence. That is more than enough. It's a world history. As it is a more conceptual concept. So do not have to get caught up in years. If you can remember 53 to 56, 75 to 78, more than enough, which is 1875 to 78. The years which you have to remember, I will tell you, that is not important here. So we have seen 3 tendencies developing. Who is the common enemy of the whole world at this point of time? Who is the common enemy of the whole world? Very good. Russia. Now, Russia got defeated in the Crimean War. And once it got defeated in the Crimean War itself, one thing is very clear, that Russia now also does not have military access to Mediterranean Sea because of the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris straightforward said, which is the demilitarization of Black Sea. Meaning that in the Black Sea, Russia cannot, and neither the Ottomans, neither the Russians can have military ships in the Black Sea. Now, this basically makes the Russian Navy more or less useless, because there are 2 other ports which we will discuss tomorrow when we'll talk about Russian Revolution, which is St. Petersburg, which is called Petrograd at this point of time. But St. Petersburg is not an all-weather port, because the Baltic Sea, the Northern Sea, is going to freeze in the winters. And on the other hand, the next big port is Vladivostok, which is in the Pacific. So the only way to enter into the Atlantic was either in the summer season or through a port which is very important for them till today, for which the Russians, what we call annexed the Ukrainian sector in 2014, which is the Crimean sector and which is Sevastopol. So Sevastopol till today is considered a very, very important port, and that is the reason why Crimea was annexed by Russians in 2014. So Sevastopol also now becomes useless because it is a port on the Black Sea, but there cannot be no military presence there. Now you see, between 1856 and 1875, Russia tries to modernize itself. Russia tries a lot of different things. The Tsar who was going to come to now power is Tsar Nicholas II. Tsar Nicholas I still is in power. They all come from the Romanov dynasty. The point is Russia tries to change itself. But the point is Russian changes are mostly hollow. Russian changes are mostly hollow. But by 1875, now Russia again wants to find a way to get access to the Mediterranean and end this saga with the Ottomans. But this time the Russians play a different game. In the Balkan sector, there are three very big nationalisms or nationalities developing. One is the Serbians, Nicholas I. Second is the Bulgarians. Third is the Romanians. Greeks already have their independence. And you have the Montenegro sector along with Macedonia. These are three very big nationalities developing at this point of time. So what Russia does is it changes its tactic. In the Crimean War, can we say that Russia in a way head on went with the Ottomans, and that was the problem, that the Russians directly attacked the what we call as the Ottomans. So the point of the matter is, if we look at the larger map of Europe at this point of time, the point is that very simply, the Ottomans were directly attacked by Russia. Russia, as I told you, has two ports. One is St. Petersburg, which is here, and this is the second, which is Sevastopol. Now, Sevastopol is become useless because this whole sector, there cannot be any military presence, and this whole sector freezes in the what we call as the winter season. So Russia is desperate. So what the Russians choose this point was that whilst in the Crimean War it was direct aggressive politics of the Russians versus the Ottomans, now the Russians rather play a game. And the game is that Russia says to the Romanians, to the Bulgarians, Serbians have independence, but still they are not recognized. So the Bulgarians, to the Montenegrins, to the Macedonians, to the whole Balkan sector, that if I remember well, you want a nation. You want freedom from the Ottomans. And the whole sector says, yes, we want freedom from the Ottomans. And now Russians start to encourage nationalism in this sector. That go ask for freedom from Ottoman Empire. Go, it is your right. Why don't you go there? I am standing behind you. So basically, that Pakistan-China type concept, that Pakistan is in the front, China is in the back, same type, what is called Russians trying to say to the Romanians and the Bulgarians and the Serbians, मान लो, chao, go, take independence. Now, Russian strategy was what? Russia was waiting for one simple, straightforward thing. That as soon as the Ottomans react, rather than taking an covert thing in the Great Eastern Crisis, Great Eastern Crisis, what happens is that the Russians start to, in a way, add add oil to, or what we call as petrol to the fire, which is called nationalism. And the Russian strategy was that once the nationalism is going to reach a certain point, these countries, Serbians, the Bulgarians, the Romanians, the Montenegrins, the Macedonians, will ask for independence. And now the Ottomans are going to do something about it. The Ottomans are going to do something about it, because now the regions within the Ottoman Empire are asking. Now, Britain and France could see this. Britain and France could see this, and there was a very big conference which was organized by the British and the French, and they said to the Ottomans that do not. It's called the Conference of Constantinople, and British and the French said to the Ottomans that understand one thing: Russia is going to do it. Don't respond. Don't respond. We see that the Russians are playing a game here. So the Ottomans said, leave it to me. You are doubting my conviction towards this area. I will not do anything. But as soon as the Serbians, Bulgarians, Romanians, Macedonians all start to ask for nationalism, now the Ottomans, contrary to what they had said to the British and the French, now the Ottomans systematically start to suppress these nationalism. And this is what Russia was waiting for. Russia, as soon as the Ottomans use force, says, how did you touch my brother? How can you touch this area? I am the guardian of Slavic nationalism. How can you touch these people? First, talk to me. Don't talk to these people, talk to me. And under the wheel of protecting the nationalism of the Balkan sector, that we want to protect the Balkan nationalism, now Russia attacks the Ottomans. So now you see, Russia was here the savior rather than the aggressor. Rather than being the aggressor, it is the savior. And what is more interesting is Russia saw one thing. When the war went on the longer side, went very long, the British and the French could intervene and then undo everything. Here, Russia, what it did was, as soon as it fought, it said, treaty sign karo. Let's sign a treaty. Let's sign a treaty. This area is mine. That area is yours. We will not wait for anybody to do anything. So as soon as Russia starts to defeat the Ottomans, they said, come, let's sign a treaty. Let's sign a treaty. And this time, why this event is so important is because this time the British and the French don't do anything, but a new giant responds. Who is that new person? Guess. Who is that new person who's going to respond for the Ottomans' cries? Not Austria, not America. Yes, Germany. Now Bismarck will say, how can Russia dictate anything to the Ottomans? And now the Germans will intervene, unlike the British and the French, and they will intervene on the part of the Ottomans and say to the Russians, what? Now, till this point, before this point, all treaties happened in which city? All treaties used to happen in which city? Paris. For the first time in history, now the treaty happened at Berlin, the capital of the new Germany which has been formed. And at the Treaty of Berlin, there will be a map which will be produced after whatever Russia had done. It will be undone again. Once all big powers get involved, Russia more or less sits quiet. It doesn't do anything mostly. And what is called the Treaty of San Stefano. The Treaty of San Stefano will be annulled, and now at Berlin, Britain and France will be called to the new, very brand spanking new capital of Bismarck, and Bismarck will now show power. We'll talk about the map which will be produced by the Treaty of Berlin, but there's a very major tendency which is developing here. Why Germany interfered? That is a show of power. This is the tendency. The tendency is the emergence of Germany at the world scene. It's a display of power that if Britain and France can't care about the Ottomans, then I can be. This is Bismarck making a statement. And this is the most dangerous tendency. Why did Britain and France not intervene? Because they were fed up of the Ottomans. They said to them in a conference, do not intervene. So very simply, Britain and France said, okay, let the Russians take what they're taking. The simple point is the entry of the Germans was very quick. Germany was formed in 1871. And by 1875, within 4 years, it is responding to an international crisis. The British and the French, in a way, were sleeping. They thought that we will intervene. We are the only ones who can intervene. The Great Eastern Crisis has two major conclusions for Europe. Can I write the three conclusions which we saw last time and add these two new conclusions? And I want to talk about the Treaty of Berlin and read everything out of the PPT also. Yes. What is the result of the intervention I'm coming to? How Germany became powerful in 4 years. As I told you, Gagan, Industrial Revolution. Once Germany got its power from industrialization, within 3 years, it was able to outrun the British. So it's about making a statement. So we saw that the Serbians hate the West. They are angry and they are frustrated. On the other hand, you have the second, which is that no compromise. War is the only solution. Third is big powers getting involved in regional matters. But fourth and fifth is very important. Before this Germany entry, there was no Germany before 1870. So all treaties had happened before that. Now, two new conclusions. The emergence of Germany as a great power and its unilateral intervention in the Great Eastern Crisis showed Bismarck's power in Europe. And the second most important thing, Russia ceases to be an enemy or problem or threat to the West. Russia 2 times back to back, Crimean War and Great Eastern Crisis, everybody showed Russia its place. So now Russia after 1878 is mostly considered a useless power. That they only know how to beat their chest, but they never are able to do anything. Basically like Pakistan, that they will do a lot of things, but when it comes to literally doing something, the simple point is they will never be able to respond. So in the Crimean War, Great Britain and the French dictated everything to the Russians, and now a new boy, a new guy called Germany came and showed to the Russians who was boss. So, Santosh, we'll talk about Russia's hate for the West. That is not coming from here. It will come after this. The point is that there are five basic tendencies. There are five basic tendencies which were at play in Europe. Anybody has any point in understanding these 5 points? Because then I'll repeat these all events through the PPT, and then I want to discuss the very bad map created by the Treaty of Berlin. Anybody has any issue in these 5 points? Serbia hates the West, no compromise, big powers and regional issues. Did Russia lose Great Eastern Crisis? Yes. And Russia ceases to be a problem for the West because they could see twice, one after the other, in 1850 and 1870, both Russia was defeated. Russia was not a match to the mighty British, the French, and now even the Germans. Treaty of Berlin is 1878. I will give you all the details. First, understand the five tendencies at play. If you understand these five, then the next six events will make sense. Simple, straightforward point. Emergence of Germany, because Germany was the one who responded once the Russians started to become aggressive on the Ottomans in the Great Eastern Crisis. Were there any other reasons? It's not. It's just British and French. It's all arrogance. It's all lethargy, or rather, overconfidence that we are the one which will respond. See, understand this point. These are much bigger issues than I am actually showing you. So Britain and France can't babysit the Ottomans, and that is the problem. And the Ottomans were told at the Treaty of at the Constantinople conference that this is going to happen. But if the Ottomans still want to go and hit their head in a wall, Britain and France will obviously not do that. As it is all the Eastern question. It's about a gimmick. It's a way of just showing to the Ottomans that we care about you. So Germany's entry was unexpected, but Germany wanted to enter. Bismarck wanted to show that it can also be a great power. So why Russia is not powerful, that I will tell you tomorrow, which is the Russian Revolution. Why was there a need for Russian Revolution? Simple, straightforward. 5 points are written in front of you. Anybody has any issue, because then I'll repeat these things through the PPT. It will make more sense to you. And then I want to go to the next six. Moroccan crisis, and thereafter the Russia-Britain treaty, thereafter the Bosnian crisis, and more important, the map which is there after 1878. Nationalism got suppressed after Bismarck's entry. That is not true. It's just that there is a new player in the larger concept. That's it. Okay. Point 5. As I said, Russia ceases to be a problem. You tell me, if you comprehensively defeat a power twice, does it, Tanmay and Vivek, remain a problem for you? Be it the Crimean War or be it the Great Eastern Crisis. Twice you have defeated that power. No, that is the point which this point is basically making. That's the only point. These are the foundations of the First World War. I am still again making more foundations. 5 and 3 more I will tell you. Japanese are in no picture. America is in no picture. I will bring them if they will be needed. Now, let's discuss these events. Let's discuss these events from the PPT. Please pay attention. I'm again in a way revising what we did on Monday, but now through the PPT. But as always, I will just read it out to you, which is Serbian Revolution will happen. Serbia has a border with Austria. Austrians will start to annex a little bit of Serbian territory, which is basically Ottoman territory. There will be revivalism of trade, transfer of new ideas, and nationalism will be revived in Serbia. New Serbian elite will emerge, and Russia was always a source of inspiration. Now, the first uprising for the Serbians will start in 1804 and will go till 1813. They will remain independent in this period for 10 years. Thereafter, re-annexation of Serbia will happen by the Ottomans. But the Serbians and Ottomans will go into a negotiation over a virtual independence, more or less, in 1817-1818 period. However, they will not be recognized as a nation till the Treaty of Berlin, as I will talk to you about that. So very simply, Serbia fought for their independence and got their independence on their own cost. Now comes the Greek War of Independence. When we talk about the Greeks, they are much more powerful and are patronized with the Ottomans also. Small number of Greeks were just not there in just modern Greece, but they were scattered across the Ottoman lands and even in Europe. Considerable population had gone to the Italian sector also. They are in the Balkan commerce, very important, shipmen, traders. And the Greek position was not as bad as the Serbians, as we already know. So the Greeks were never separated from Europe in a way, because since the Constantinople conquest by the Ottomans, the very simple point was the Ottomans will conquer Constantinople in 1453. That will lead to the Greeks to flee to Italy, and they will play a major role in the Renaissance. As I told you, the sailors and the captains will become elites in the European world itself, have a lot of ideas since the American Revolution, French Revolution, and the Napoleonic Wars itself. So, with corruption and maladministration happening in this sector, central authority becoming more and more weak, failed law and order in the countryside, the Greeks now started to resent local administration and governors and started to revolt against the Ottomans. Unlike the Serbians, they had a planned conspiracy. They had an underground society, Fiki Eritrea, which was planning uprisings throughout this period itself. Revolts will begin in 1821, but the revolts will be very quickly crushed by the Ottomans. Very simply, the Greek cities will one by one rebel, but the Ottomans were very heavy handed. Now, this will create the context for international intervention, wherein Russia will put pressure on the Sultan, help Greece with money and troops. Britain and France, threatened by the overt Russian influence on independent Greece, now the British and the French will declare war against the Ottomans and destroy Ottoman navy, and the Russians will attack the Ottomans and defeat them. The Greeks will be given their independence through the Treaty of Adrianople in 1829 and a platter. But in order to make sure that Russian influence was low, a foreign king, a Spanish king, will be appointed in Greece. The size will be decreased, but the Greeks will keep on expanding and becoming what they are. Basic point is, a pro-Russia Greek is or Greece is not produced. Thereafter, the Ottoman Empire will keep on becoming weak and weak. Russian expansionism will keep on going on. But Britain and France did not want a powerful Russia. Now, Napoleon III, who had intent for restoring French prestige, will lead to the first immediate cause or the major cause of the Crimean War, which is the immediate cause was the right of the Christians minority in the Palestinian sector as part of the Ottoman Empire. The French promoted Roman Catholic while the Russians promoted Eastern Orthodox Church. Nicholas gave an ultimatum that demanded Orthodox subjects of the Ottoman Empire to be placed under his protection. But when the Ottomans demanded change, or when the Ottomans in a way did not agree to the changes to the agreement, Nicholas thereafter attacked the Ottomans in 1853. This is going to become the context for the Crimean War itself. Battle of Sinop, Russia will capture the Danube region. UK and French press now wanted the very simply the British and the French to respond. They will now reverse the gains of the Russians. And the Treaty of Paris in 1856, both parties will give each other what they had gained back. However, the Tsar and the Sultan, which is Russia and Ottomans, will agree to now have no military arsenal in the Black Sea. This will really weaken the Russians quite a lot. The Treaty of Paris admitted the Ottomans into the concert of Europe. As we know, the Metternich Order, which was still there, the body was still there. And now the great power said that we will protect the Ottomans in that regard. The consequence is anti-war sympathy was there quite a lot. The Red Cross will be formed after the very important, what we call as nurse Florence Nightingale, who had worked for the people in the Crimean War. Neutralization of the Black Sea. Russia will start to modernize itself. Ottoman fiscal condition obviously will go down because war is never good for economy. The Ottomans will have to grant Christians equal rights as Muslims. However, Russia will now look towards the east, towards the Japanese sector for expansion, which we'll discuss tomorrow. However, Russians were still not silent. They were still looking for more. And therefore, the Ottoman Empire started taking foreign loans. Revolt started in Bosnia, the Herzegovinian sector, the Bulgarian sector. Russians encouraged the revolts. The great powers organized a conference, which is the Constantinople Conference, for which the Ottomans ignored the outcomes. The Russo-Turkish War is going to happen in 1877-78. Russia will help the rebel sectors and will capture a lot of its areas. It will even sign a treaty called the Treaty of San Stefano, in which Ottomans are going to lose a lot of land in the Eastern European sector. However, the greater Bulgarian sector will also be created. But unlike anything, now the Germans will respond, and now the Congress of Berlin is going to happen in 1878. At the Congress of Berlin, which was organized by Bismarck, led by Bismarck, the six great powers, Britain, France, Germany, Austria, Italy, and Russia, the Ottoman Empire, and the four Balkan states, Greece, Serbia, Romania, and Montenegro, will meet. The Treaty of Berlin will be signed, and the San Stefano Treaty will be annulled. It will be removed. The Red Cross is to till today what we call as a body which helps people for medical help in general. Red Cross is a philanthropic body which helps in times of need. Now, Britain wanted to decrease the power of Russia. Ottoman Empire had to be conserved, and nationalists needed to also be satisfied. And Austria-Hungary wanted to also increase its influence, and that in turn will create the worst map of Europe, which I'm going to discuss with you just in the next 5 to 6 seconds. Now, very simply, we have gone through the five tendencies which are very important. As you see, the details of the events are too much to be written anywhere. So you need to understand the conclusions. Between 1800, between 1800 and 1878, five tendencies are at play. Serbians hate the West, no compromise, great powers getting involved in small issues, Russia more or less is useless for everybody, defeated twice, was not even able to respond to anyone, and the Germans have emerged as a major role or major partner. Now, can I talk to you about the map of 1878, which is going to become the stepping stone for the events which are going to happen between 1905 to 1914? Everybody is with me. All of this is just a repetition, 40 minutes repetition of what we did on Monday. That gap is what made me do all of this. I could have easily not done it. But I want everybody's assertion that we are clear with regards to these basic points. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, now, let's talk about the map. Now, see, never give the Europeans the chance to make a map. They are the worst when it comes to making maps. They have no idea how to make maps. And somehow they always create a mess. It will happen at the Treaty of Berlin, and it will also happen at the Treaty of Versailles. Give them a map to make, and they will make sure that a war happens after it. Because somehow they are not able to make maps. Same happened in India. The basic issue with China is also this. The basic issue with the neighbors is the same. They did it in Israel and Palestine also. They do it everywhere. But it's not that they do it generally. They are very bad at it. They're actually very bad at it. And I'll show you the beauty of that, what we call as very bad concept. See, this is the Treaty of Berlin 1878 map. And now there are multiple things which will happen. where it says Turkey, which is this pink part, this will become the new border of the Ottoman Empire. This will be the Ottoman Empire for you. Ottoman Empire for you. This part and this part. You have new states which have emerged. You have Greece, which already existed as a very important state. This is the first one, but now fully recognized through the Treaty of Berlin. And now the messing up will start from this point forward. You see, Romania is created out of the upper parts of the what we call as Ottoman Empire. This will be the second state which will be created. They will create this new part, and this is one of the bigger problematic sectors. This is called Greater Bulgaria. Finally, after their struggles with the world, the Serbians will be recognized as a separate country. Serbians will recognize a separate country. This is the third unit which has been there. Fourth unit, which is Serbia. And now there is a territory which is 80 to 85% Serbian in nationality, but has a very strategic location. And this is called Bosnia. Where is Balkan? This is Balkan. This is Balkan area. Don't do this. Where is Balkan? This is the whole Balkan area itself. Balkan range is there. That is why it's called the Balkans. Bosnia. Now, by this map, can I successfully say that the Serbians are landlocked? Or are the only landlocked country? Bulgarians have the Black Sea. Romanians have a little part in the Black Sea. Greece is nothing but in the sea itself, Mediterranean. So, Serbia is in a way landlocked. Now, Austro-Hungary, which is Austria, knows that the Serbians are a nuisance. Very simply, they're tension people, meaning the Serbians are little bit. The screw is little bit loose. Little bit. They are, in a way, if the Serbians get power, they will dance on your head. And Austria knows that. So Bosnia, with all fairness, to be very fair to the Serbians, which the world has never been to the Serbians, Bosnia should have been given to the Serbians. Because it is a more or less Slavic language, Bosnian nationality, and 80 to 85% of the population is Serbian cultural. But if I give Serbia Bosnia, what happens? If I give Bosnia to Serbia, what happens? Bosnia or Serbia gets access to what? Access to the Aegean Sea and the Adriatic Sea and the Mediterranean. Now, Austria and Germany are close to each other because they are German-speaking states. All the fighting is forgotten. And Austria says to Germany and Britain and France, do anything, but don't give Bosnia to Serbia. Don't give Bosnia to Serbia. And the Serbians literally plead at the Treaty of Berlin or the Congress of the Berlin that we will forget everything. We are not frustrated. We are not anything. Just give us Bosnia. You give us Bosnia and we will forget there was any problem with you. Give us Bosnia. And they were like, we want access to the sea. It gives us a lot of commerce. We don't want to be the only landlocked country. Please give us access to the sea. However, this is where the Europeans started to mess up Europe. Because now what they will do, and this is a very, very, very interesting thing. See, Greater Bulgaria is created. Greater Bulgaria is created. So it should have been given 100% independence. It should have been given 100% independence. But it was given partial independence and was under the administrative control of Ottomans, which actually made no sense. That somehow the Ottomans still had control over Bulgaria. Makes no sense, but part of the contradictory answer of Eastern question. But the more confusing answer came from this sector. Bosnia was divided into two parts, or was having dual control. Administrative control was given to Austria, but for the purpose of map making, it was part of the Ottomans. Understand this point. This is the messed up map which they created, which is that Bulgaria is not a full state. It is still under the control of the Ottomans. And because Serbians should not be given access to the sea, administrative control of Serbia is with Austria, but it is part of the Ottoman Empire. To be more precise, I'll add color and it will make sense to you. Very simply, this is the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This is the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Now, Serbia is a different country. Serbia is a different country. And for us, the most important actor here is the Ottomans. Now, what has happened is that Bosnia, for the purpose of the map, was shown as part of the Ottomans. And Bulgaria was also shown as a part of the Ottomans. But here, administrative control is with Austria. So basically, it has Austria control also. And in Bulgaria, there is an independent government also, but the Ottomans also control. So now they've created two very dangerous areas. One, this basic issue of Serbia, Bosnia, and other, this issue of Bulgaria, which is they could have easily made a very good map. Greece is already happy with what it has. Greece is a country which exists here. It is happy with what it is. The point is that now the Serbians, who are already a little bit loose from here, yes, unnecessary complications have been created. It could have been very easy. It could have been the easiest slam dunk map, and maybe the First World War would not have happened. But they have created a messed up map here. They've created a messed up map here. Do we understand the complications? Because the story doesn't end here. You don't have to learn this. I'm just telling you the unnecessary complications. It looks confusing to you. Imagine the people who were living there, what would have happened to them. That why was Bosnia not given to Austria only, Gagan? That is the point. Either give fully to Austria or give it fully to Ottomans. But this is how Europe works. Don't expect too much from them. The point is, this story is unnecessarily complicated. It is unnecessarily complicated. Two areas, remember, just hold on to this point. Remember a word, Bosnia, and I just want to take this story forward. Eastern Romania of no purpose to us. That will, as it is, get complicated when the Balkan Wars is going to happen. Vivek, don't get stuck up somewhere where it really doesn't matter. Can you understand the issue with Bosnia? Because if you can, I want to now go to the 19th century. Rather, from the 19th century to 20th century, with the year of, or the century of wars. Are we all on the same page? Again, repeating myself straightforward. We have reached the Treaty of Berlin. We started with Serbian War of Independence, with then Greek, then the Crimean War, then the Great Eastern Crisis. All introduced 5 tendencies which we all agreed to. Treaty of Berlin creates a messed up map of Europe, which I have tried to show you here, which is the messed up part is Bosnia. This is the problematic part. Bosnia and Bulgaria are the 2 areas which are problematic. I don't care what happened to the other areas. Very straightforward, shown in the map of the Ottomans, but is under the control of the Austrians, is an independent state also, but is also part of the Ottoman Empire. Can I now move to the 20th century? The reason for not giving Bulgaria full independence, Black Sea access, and this is what is the contradictory answer to the Eastern question. They can't strengthen this area too much, but they can also not give them full, or give the Ottomans full control. That is the problem. It's a balancing, limiting power, as you say, limiting power, but it's a complicated way of limiting power. It's a complicated way of limiting power. Black Sea is the only way you enter into the Mediterranean for most of these countries. Now, can we enter 20th century? Please, can we do it? 20th century. Okay. Now, between the period of 1878 to 1902, 1903, there are certain things which are happening. There are certain things which are happening in Europe. We already know the 5 tendencies have developed. We already know that. But now things start to become even more. When did Greece get independence? 1829 on itself. By both showing both territories belong to Ottomans, who they are misguiding themselves. It's about misguiding the Ottomans also, misguiding the Bulgarians also, and the Bosnians also. They were not successful in doing it. As it is, it was not going to be a very long-lived system. 5 tendencies have developed. We all know that. That is not an issue. But now, between 1878 and 1902, 1903, 2 things are happening. One is called alliance systems. Alliance systems, which is that all countries are going into secret alliances. How you actually do it with your friends, that if you will eat something, I will also eat it. If we will go together, then I will go. I don't want to travel with him, this and that. It's called secret alliance. It's not overt alliance, it is secret alliance. Mohammed, I'll come to that, don't worry. The point is the British and the French are in an alliance, but they don't want to say it. Same way, the Austrians and the Germans are in an alliance. Now, one very innocent question which will come from you is, how can Germans and Austrians be friends? And the answer to that question is, and please pay attention to these 4 or 5 lines, it will help you as an IFS officer, which is that in world history, there are no permanent enemies and there are no permanent friends. There are no permanent enemies and there are no permanent friends. What really matters is interest. This is the basic thumb rule of geopolitics and international relations, that there are no permanent enemies and there are no permanent friends. Britain and France for 400 years fought with each other. Britain and France were fighting for 400 years but are now in an alliance. Austria lost a lot of territories to the Germans when the Germany sector was created, but now they are in an alliance because their interests come together. So there can be a period in which we also come, either our permanent enemy cannot be China and our permanent friend can also not be China. There can be a period which can be there. So very simply, it's all geopolitics. It's all geopolitics. And understand this point also. But sir, Pakistan is permanent enemy. That is also your misconception. Till it suits the geopolitics for the Pakistanis to do what they're doing, the things, the way they are turning out, and the way they are actually becoming more and more wary of China, there will come a period, and you will see it for sure, that India and Pakistan will at some places come together. India and Afghanistan have already started to align together, but when in balancing Pakistan, when in balancing China, you will see South Asia will come together against all odds, because that is the story of, that is what world history proves to you, that unlikeliest of people will come together. And I will show it to you within the next 5 minutes. I will show it to the next 5 minutes. We'll predict the future later. Atharv, Pratyaksh and Gagan will predict the future later. Let's win the match against them first in the World Cup. The first point of the matter is, that is the future. Current geopolitics is of no purpose to me. Let me talk about Europe right now. So these are called secret alliances. Yes, when Iran and UAE can come together, anything can happen. Now, even South, there will come a period when Saudis will also start to align with the Iranians. You will see. Now, very simply, Britain, France are in an alliance. Austria and Germany are in an alliance. Everybody is playing alliance. That if you attack me, if somebody attacks you, I will also attack. If you attack me, I will attack you. This and that. Internal alliances. It's called alliance systems of the late 19th century. But what alliance systems actually do is that, very simply, they create suspicion. They create suspicion. The Serbians already hate the West, first tendency. No compromise is already there. Everybody wants to fight, and big powers are getting involved in small issues. And Germany is already emerged, and Russia has become a useless power for everyone. Now everybody is creating suspicion. Nobody knows who's in an alliance with the other one. So throughout 20th century, throughout this late 19th century, there are German, Austria, Italy, one alliance. The French and the Russians are in an alliance. The British and the French are in an alliance. It's called the Triple Entente. You will see the same power the French were fighting. French were fighting with the Russians over Crimean War. That was Napoleon III and the issue with Nicholas I. But now with the new French Republic and Nicholas II, the point is everybody came together. Now you can see here, two unlikeliest of people are in together. So there will be new naval rivalry between Britain and Germany, which we already know, because Germany was becoming a bigger and bigger industrial power. French now started to think, how did we give the Germans Alsace and Lorraine? They had already lost Alsace and Lorraine under Napoleon III. Germany started to feel a little bit insecure also, because Britain is going into an alliance with France. You can already see that everybody is starting to do things. In between these, the Serbians are also, in a way, becoming more and more nationalistic. Austria doesn't like Serbians becoming too nationalistic, because that will, in a way, destabilize their southern border. So if you look at the basic way the whole of Europe was, you have Britain, you have France, you have Germany, you have Russia, you have Italy, you have Austria, you have the Serbians here. The simple point is, there are nodes which are developing. So you can see they are going into a certain way of alliances. And the Serbians in all of this are also creating problems for the Austrians who have a southern border with the Serbians. This is the world in 1900. Five tendencies and secret alliances. Anybody has any issue in this? Because now I go to the home swing or the home run towards the First World War, which is how did the First World War start? Because we have to discuss again set of 6 events which are going to lead to the First World War. Serbia is with no one. Serbia looks towards Russia but is independently losing its mind. Can I now pivot towards what happened after 1900? Amit already told you the 5 tendencies. No compromise, war is solution, the big powers involved in small issues, the Germans rising, Russia not becoming important, and Serbians being frustrated. How Britain and France became alliance with Russia because Priyanshu again innocent speaking, because their interest goes against Germany. Everybody is in a way very, very envious and jealous of Germany. Germany came into existence in 1871, and after it came into existence in 1871, by 1878 it has held a major conference and is now becoming the foremost industrial power. I don't need to tell you, when when your friends rise more quickly, it hurts. It hurts. It's the standard Three Idiots scene, which is that when your friend fails, you feel a little bit pain, but when your friend tops, it feels even more pain. And that is what is happening here. That the Ranchodar Chachar of this whole story, which is Germany, is now becoming more and more prominent. Which alliance favors Ottomans? Ottomans are sitting here. No alliance partner as of right now should be the alliance partner of Britain and France. Can I now talk about 1900? We are pushing in too much time into something which really doesn't matter. Okay. Now come the 6 events which led up to the Sarajevo crisis, which is a Serbian shooting an Austrian, which will start the war itself. Now, the $1,000,000 question is, how are these events related to the First World War? Now, please understand, I presume that we know the 5 tendencies. Anybody still has an issue, you tell me right now. If not, then I talk about the Moroccan crisis. Again, the story of the Moroccan crisis is not important. The conclusion is. Okay. Now let's talk about the Moroccan crisis. Now there are 2 countries in the northern African sector. One is called Morocco and the other one is Egypt. Now these countries are not directly under, in a way, are not directly under any power, but are under the influence of European powers. So whilst we have the French and the British exercise control over Egypt and the French exercise control over the Moroccans. But it is not overt. It is not that they are colonies. Egypt and Morocco, they are under the control of Britain and France in a way, and each recognizes the power of the other. Which is that Britain recognizes, okay, France has control over Morocco, and France recognizes that, yes, Britain has control over Egypt. This is a European gentleman's agreement that Morocco is in a way French colony, Britain in a way is an Egyptian colony. Egypt is a British colony. Now the Sultan of Morocco, he doesn't feel very comfortable. Under French control. And the problem with Germany is that Germany can see something. Germany can see that the real power of all these countries, Britain, France, and all, were their colonies. So Germany at this point of time was desperate to have colonies or was looking for colonies. Now, the Moroccan Sultan approaches the Germans, and Germany sees an opportunity in making Morocco pro-German. So Germany now organizes a very big conference, which is called the Berlin Conference. Berlin Conference of 1905. Very big conference is going to be organized. And the basic gist of that conference was Germany will say that I protect the sovereignty of the Moroccan Sultan. That Morocco is my younger brother. I will protect Morocco. Nobody can touch Morocco. Nobody can do anything to Morocco. I protect my younger brother, Morocco. That is the basic gist. That Moroccan sovereignty, in a way, is protected by the Germans. Okay. This happens on, for example, Wednesday, and the French get to know about this. That the Germans are, in a way, guaranteeing Moroccan sovereignty. Now the French, what they do, on a Friday, the French take over the Moroccan police, take over the Moroccan treasury and its bank, and in a way, take full control over Morocco. And nobody says nothing. Nobody. The same powers who were clapping, saying, yes, Germany is the bigger brother of Morocco, did not dare say anything. And Germany was now not a position to do anything, because if it did anything, it would mean war with France, which nobody wants to do. Which nobody wants to do. The Berlin Conference has been undercut by the French, and now Germany is basically diplomatically humiliated. You said that your brother, he is my younger brother. Here came two thugs called Britain and France. They beat up your brother. They took all his clothes and his money. And you were just standing there. So why is Moroccan crisis considered so important? Because it is basically the diplomatic humiliation of Germany. And now Germany will become aggressive. Now Germany will become aggressive. Bismarck is dead. Bismarck dies in 1890. This is not Bismarckian politics. Bismarck would not have done it only. But the Moroccan crisis, very simply, is a diplomatic humiliation for Germany. Literally, the Germans feel now we have been humiliated, and now their behavior will be, and try to understand this point, their behavior will be dictated by this moment. And you will see everything will come together, that the Germans responded in a certain way in 1914 because of this diplomatic humiliation. So can you hold on to the fact that the Moroccans have, in a way, this Moroccan incident has made Germany aggressive and feels humiliated and wants revenge? Can we hold on to this fact? Okay, you'll hold on to it. Now, the most unlikeliest of the events in the world happen by the end of this incident, as it is written in front of you, which is Britain and Russia go into an alliance. See, if you look at the map, Britain and France are already in an alliance. But if Russia goes into an alliance with the British, and there's already a French and Russian alliance, now Germany gets encircled. Now Germany gets encircled. On its west, or rather its east, they have the Russians, and on their western border, they have the British and the French. Now, you will say, sir, how is it such a significant event? It is a significant event because Britain and Russia, if you remember, were fighting very aggressively between the 1850s and 1900s. So, for 50 years, they were fighting, but their common animosity with Germany, their common jealousy with Germany, will bring Great Britain and Russia together. Another event which will impact all of this was that Russia will also go through a drama, which I will discuss with you tomorrow, which is called the October Manifesto, where Russia will become a constitutional monarchy. But yes, enemy is enemy's friend. Very simply, because both of them hate Germany, they have come together. Now, if I was Germany, will I feel nervous? What will I feel? What will I feel? If I'm Germany and two biggest enemies have come together, how will I feel? I will feel suspicious. Against all odds, alliance happens. And now, conclusion. Germany feels encircled, anxious, and more than that, it feels threatened. It feels threatened. In a way, the Germans back to back in the first 10 years of 1900 have been humiliated also and have also been threatened. Now, anybody any issue in these two events? We're just building up to it. Just 10-15 minutes more. No? Very good. Now let's come back to this age-old issue which the Treaty of Berlin created, which is Bosnia. This area is basically Bosnia. Now, between 1878 and 1908, one thing is very clear, that the Serbians are becoming obsessed with Bosnia. Wake a Serbian up in the night, he will say Bosnia, Bosnia, Bosnia. I can't eat because Bosnia is not with me. Every issue, the solution is Bosnia. That I did not study well, I failed in the examination because Bosnia is not part of the Serbian thing. Everybody is now becoming more and more what is called very ultra nationalistic, which is that Bosnia, Bosnia. They will keep on saying, what do you want? Bosnia. It's like anything you want, Bosnia. I was not able to digest my food because Bosnia is not part of Serbia. They will literally get a certain type of obsession with Bosnia. Obsession with Bosnia, which one of our neighbors also has over certain issues over which they're destroying themselves. Separate issue altogether. But the point is Bosnia, 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 Bosnia. But the problem is that if I had one stone and if I had to break the head of one person who was responsible for Bosnia, The problem is there are two powers which are involved with Bosnia. Austria also has control over it, and Ottomans also have control over it. So right now the Serbians are confused that kidhar mare, that where should we hit it? Should we throw it on the Austrian or should we throw it on the Ottoman? They're confused. But this confusion will change in 1908. In 1908, what will happen? What will happen is that there will be some over smart king in Ottoman, a very young king or sultan will come to power in Ottoman Empire, and he will say that I don't like how Bosnia is part of our territory, but is controlled by the Austrians. And the Austrians liked this new spacious Bosnia. So in 1908, it's called the Bosnian Crisis. In it, the Ottomans and the Austrians will fight. The Ottomans and the Austrians will fight over the issue of Bosnia. And it will be forever established because as it is, Ottomans were useless at this point of time. The Austrians will defeat the Ottomans. And now the Austrians fully control this area. Fully control this area. Now, if I'm a Serbian, I should throw the stone on whom? The Ottomans or the Austrians? Now they have one common enemy. Now, this event in itself is not very important, but explains a lot of things, which is that Bosnian crisis, Ottomans and Austrians fight over Bosnia, and the conclusion is that Austria now has full control over Bosnia. And for the larger picture, Serbians have one enemy now. So very simply, who is the Vaishnava? The ruler which comes is in Ottomans, but he's of no purpose to one. Who is the Sultan? This and that. No purpose to us. It's the Ottoman who become very, very overconfident. Now, very simply, now if you wake up a Serbian, he will say Bosnia, Bosnia, and then they will say, who is your enemy? Austria, Austria. So what do I want? Bosnia. Who is your enemy? Austria. Bosnia, Austria. Bosnia, Austria. Very simply, they are now obsessed with this concept that Bosnia can only come to us if we do something with Austria. So I think you understand the Bosnian obsession, yes. And the enemy now, one enemy, which is Austria. Anybody has any issue here? No, very good. Perfect. Now comes the explosive years of 1910, 11, 12, and 13. And here, something very, very significant is going to happen. See, in the year 1912, Serbia says to Bulgaria and Romania, and even to Greece, that what are we waiting for? You saw how the Austrians humiliated the Ottomans. We are, in a way, strong enough to defeat the Ottomans. Bulgaria says, yes, I also have a problem because I'm not recognized as a full state also. So in 1912, there will be something called the Balkan League, which will be formed, in which not Bosnia, but Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania, Montenegro, all will come together along with Greece and they say, let the big powers sleep. Let's take whatever is left of the Ottomans. Let's take whatever is left of the Ottomans. Now, very simply, the Ottomans cannot defeat the Balkan League together. So what will happen is that this whole sector will come together and fight with the Ottomans, and the Serbians will gain a certain territory here, which is called Macedonia, and the Greeks will expand into this sector. The Romanians will also able to take a little bit of the what we call Eastern Romagna, which you will see. The Bulgarians are able to take the parts which were touching Istanbul. But as soon as the First Balkan War, as it is called, starts, Germany and Britain realize that we can't let this happen. We can't let this happen because this will literally destabilize Europe. So for the one last time, for the next 90 to 95 years, these two countries will not come together. But for the one last time, Germany and Britain both will respond to this crisis, and they will say, enough of you children fighting. Let us solve this problem for you. So Britain and France both responded in this story. But this story is very interesting because while Bosnia was already lost, we already know that this Bosnia was lost to the Serbians. A new area emerges which comes out of the erstwhile Ottoman area, and this area is called Albania. It's called Albania. Albania was part of the Ottoman Empire. Now, if the Serbians get Albania, do their obsession with the Bosnia sector basically gets resolved? Yes. Albania, if it is given to Serbia, it gets access to the sea. This is what they wanted from Bosnia. The obsession with Bosnia was access to sea, access to sea, access to sea. And the Serbians now believe that if this new area which has come up called Albania is under them, maybe they will have what they've always wanted. Their age-old wish would be sorted. Now, in a way, Germany and Britain, what was the result of it? What I'm telling you, Sahil, the result of it was that the war ended, but now they are again drawing the boundaries of the Balkan sector, with the Ottomans now more or less being at this point altogether. The original map of the Ottomans as you see today, but Albania is open now. Now with Albania open, in a way, maybe Britain and France had, rather Britain and Germany had an opportunity to not allow the First World War to happen. But now Austria says to Germany, don't give Albania to Serbia, because these people will become a problem for the Italians also and for the Mediterranean also. And they say to the British, very simply, your Suez Canal will also come into the question. Bosnia has already gone to Austria. Now Serbia again pleads to the world. Already hates, one time did not get anything. It again pleads to the world, and specifically to the Germans and the Austrians, give us Albania and we will not say anything to you. Give us Albania and your problem will be over. But this is where the plot was lost by everybody, And rather than giving Albania to the Serbians, Albania is made a new country. You have to feel for the Serbians in that regard, that the Serbians asked Bosnia, that was given to the Austrians and the Ottomans, and then the Austrians took it. And Albania was a very simple small area which they wanted, but Albania again was not given to them, and now the Serbians lose it. Now the Serbians start to say Bosnia Albania, Bosnia Albania. It's all politics. Why not given? It was not given because they would then get access to sea. Nobody wants them to get access to sea. Don't be innocent. It's all politics. Literally, Bosnia bhi gaya, Albania bhi, everything is gone. Literally nothing. So now the conclusion of the first Balkan War, is that Balkan area is reorganized, but rather than giving Albania to Serbia, it was created as a new country. And the net result is Serbians will become extremely aggressive and angry. And now what will happen, that if you remember in this story, somehow this Macedonia was Bulgarian territory which Serbia was holding. And now what will happen is that in 1913, just 1 year before the fateful year 1913, Bulgaria and Serbia will fight over Macedonia. And the Serbians will win. And for the Serbians, now chhu lenge asama. Everything is possible. We fought with the Bulgarians and we won. And now there's a self-confidence which comes in Serbia, that if we can take Macedonia, let's do one thing. Now let's take Bosnia. Ab to we will take everything which we can. We fought with the Bulgarians and we won. Nobody said nothing. Let's do one thing. Let's take Bosnia now. So the second Balkan War, very simply was Bulgaria versus Serbia, and Serbia wins. That will boost its confidence and now it wants Bosnia. Now let me bring all the whole story together. Can I do that for you? And then we start the First World War. Can I bring the whole story together? Yes? Okay, very good. Perfect. Let's bring both these stories together. 1800 to 1878, 1905 to 1913. The two periods which are in question. You have Serbians hate the West. War is the only solution. No compromise. Third, big powers involved in local and regional events, rise of Germany and Balkan League both survey same side. How Macedonia was taken by, because Pratik, there was confusion. The Serbians move into the Bulgarian sector. The Bulgarians did not realize it. That is why next year they will realize it. And Russia ceases to be a threat. Now, Germans are humiliated, feel frustrated, encircled, and what we call as threatened. No, Amrit, you will see. Things are going to happen very comically. You will see very comically it will happen. Thereafter, Germans are humiliated, feel frustrated, encircled, and threatened. You have Bosnia, full access to Austria. Third, Albania is created but not given to Serbians. Serbians feel frustrated and happy at the same time. Frustrated over Albania and happy about Macedonia. Right? Albania becomes a separate country altogether. Now, there are 9 points written here. Anybody has any issue here? 9 points written here. They are all part of the larger concept of what happened between 1800 to 1913. It's the 9 tendencies which exist. Serbia feels frustrated because Albania is gone, but it feels happy that Macedonia is with them. Well, they have won something. If you are always defeated, won something finally. If you feel frustrated throughout your life and you get one small victory, does it boost your confidence? Sir, why Balkan League not revolted against Austria? Because that is not their point. That they know they can't defeat Austria. The basic point is, for Serbians it is elation also, but also in a way, very, very sad about Albania. Now, I want to start the First World War. If I have everybody's permission, can I please start the First World War? And that is the past 7 hours I've been building up to this moment. Why Germans humiliated? Because of Moroccan crisis. Okay. Now, the Serbians feel they can do anything. After the Second Balkan War, they think they can do anything. And now what they choose to do is that Sarajevo is a small city in Bosnia. And now a Serbian, Gavrilo Princip, he will decide that let's send a message to the Austrians. And the message is, I will shoot the king-to-be and his wife, Archduke Ferdinand and his wife. And by sending that message, Austria will know what we want is Bosnia. And on the fateful day, of what we call as 28th June 1914, which is called the Sarajevo crisis, Archduke or Archduke Franz Ferdinand, along with his wife, will be shot by a Serbian named Gavrilo Princip. Sarajevo is here. In Sarajevo, a Serbian will shoot an Austrian, and that too an Austrian which was going to be the next king of Austria. He was the crown prince, yes. Now Austria says enough is enough. अब ये ज़्यादा हो गया. Now this is too much. This is too much. And very simply, the Austrians sent certain demands to Serbia that if Austria was Princip related to Black Hands, don't bring in these movies. Please don't do that. Very simple, straightforward point. I have explained to you why Princip had the inclination to shoot an Austrian. Now don't ask me why would a Serbian shoot an Austrian. They were the single-handed reason for Bosnia and Albania. So Gavrilo Princip shoots Archduke Ferdinand, and now Ferdinand is dead, and Austria sends a message to the Serbians that if you accept all of these demands, we will not attack you, but if you don't, we will once and for all finish this issue of Bosnia. Serbia at this point of time felt very threatened. It will accept all demands. It will accept all demands, but one. And that one demand was, Austria said that Serbia will give up the demand for Bosnia. And Serbian said, kuch bhi mang lo, you ask for anything, but we will not give up on this demand. You do what you want to do, we will always live for Bosnia. If I will be asked in the night what is the issue with my life, I will say it is Bosnia. We will never give up the demand for Bosnia. True obsession, literal obsession with Bosnia. We want to go and take a holy bath in the Adriatic Aegean Sea. We want to die by drowning in these seas. We will never give up on the demand for Bosnia. हम डूब के मर जाएंगे बट हम छोड़ेंगे. We will never give it. And now Austria says, you asked for it, and now you see what is going to happen. Literal comedy will happen, and unfortunately that comedy is going to kill 3 crore people. Austria will attack Serbia. Is it justifiable? Is it justified that Austria finally attacked Serbia? Yes, it is. But it is a regional conflict becoming more and more problematic. That's called rabid nationalism. Rabid means rotten nationalism, which is that our nationalism is not that we will make our country better. We will destroy your country. We know a neighbor which believes in this only, that we will not take our country forward. Serbia, whatever happens, people can die of hunger. Don't care. Bosnia is what I want. They will start to eat once Bosnia is with us. Now Austria attacks Serbia. Now you see how actually things happen. Now Serbia will say to its big brother, Russia. Serbians will say, you have never responded to us. You did not give us independence. You did not give us Bosnia. You did not give us Albania. But for once, my brother, stand up for us and help us. Stand up for us and help us. We, the Slavs, need our Slavic brother, Russia, to help us. Now, before this point, somehow every time the Russians didn't care. But now the Russians will start to mobilize their forces. Russians will start to mobilize their forces. Russian mobilization on western border. So they will start to mobilize their forces on the western border. And now Austria will say to Germany, we attacked Serbia, but somehow we are seeing movement on the Russian border. Somehow we are seeing movement on the Russian border. Now clear? Russian mobilize on western border. Okay, very good. Color, pen change, yes, done. Now Austrians informed Germany that Russians are mobilizing on the western front. So Germany says to Russia, stop the mobilization or we will see it as an act of aggression. शुरू किसने किया? Who started it? Serbia. Now who's involved? Germany, for some reason. Now Germany will inform the Russians, stop mobilization, and the Russians will say, none of your business. And somehow the Russians will be attacked by the Germans. The Germans will attack the Russians. The Germans attack Russians. I will give you a master flowchart for this, so don't worry. Just pay attention. There is no Hitler right now. Please keep Hitler outside, not even born. Now once the Germans will attack the Russians, the French will say to the Germans, why are you fighting with Russia? It's an Austria-Serbia issue. Why are you fighting in Russia? So the Germans will say, मैं तो wait ही कर रहा था. I was waiting for you to say something. And the Germans will attack France via Belgium. And the Germans will attack France via Belgium. And Belgium, very simply, this small country here, Belgium, its neutrality and its sovereignty was protected by another country, that is Great Britain. And now Great Britain will attack Germany because it had violated the Belgium neutrality. Now, very simply, the Austria-Serbia conflict will end. But somehow, Germany is fighting with Russia, France, and Britain with Austria. So, Austria, Germany, what are called the Central Powers, are now fighting with the Russians, France, and the UK or the English. Now, this is all explained by the tendencies. See, regional conflict, Austria-Serbia. Who got involved? Russia. Big powers get involved in regional issues. Then the Germans, neither the Russians were ready to compromise. That in turn means that everybody thought that the war was the solution. Now you will ask me, why did Germany attack France? Because Germany had been humiliated by France. Now Germany said, I will once and for all, I defeated you for Alsace and Lorraine, I'll defeat you again. And because the French were dumb, because the Germans would never go through the Alsace and Lorraine sector, so they went through Belgium. And by doing that, they just went through Belgium, and they thought that the British will forget that the Belgium sector is not under their control. And the British now were looking for an excuse, and they will now attack Germany. Now, Germany had nothing to do with Serbia. But Germany right now is fighting with three different powers over an issue which was not even started by it. This is literally the First World War for you. Literally the First World War. I'll give you an analogy and you will never forget it if you allow me to do that. I'll give you a very simple, straightforward analogy and you will never forget it. It's an absolute joke, literal joke. And the joke of this century is, imagine with me that there is a bar. There's a bar. And in that bar, there is one Germany and his smaller brother Austria. There is one Serbia, one big brother Britain, small brother Belgium, and Russia, who is the big brother of Serbia. France is generally in this ballroom, everybody is drunk. Now what happens is, imagine with me, Austria and Serbia are small children. They fight. Okay. Go into a small fight. So now, as soon as Austria and Serbia start to fight, Russia starts to now unbutton their shirt and remove their blazer. That is their mobilization. So Germany says to Russia, "Bhai, bacche lad rahe hain. Two children are fighting. Ladne do. They are children. Why are we getting involved? Big brothers." So Russia says, "My brothers, Serbia, cannot be touched by anybody." So Russia says, "No, I will not stop." So Germany gives a punch to Russia. And now Russia is holding its lips, bleeding lips, and in the side. So France says to Germany, keeps his hand here and says, "Brother, why are you two fighting?" And now Austria and Serbia are looking at the drama from the side. They are basically not even fighting. The Austria-Serbian mobilization stopped as soon as these two big powers started to fight. Now France keeps the hand on the shoulder and says to Germany, "Why are you fighting?" So Germany said, "Mujhe tere ki shakal hi pasand nahi. I don't like your face only." And now the most comical thing happens. There is this Belgium having ice cream in the side, Britain sitting in the background. Germany goes for a punch. On France. But whilst punching France, it first hits Belgium, that small child having ice cream, and then France. And now the father of fathers, Godfather, Britain will stand up and say, "Who punched my brother? Who punched my brother?" And everybody will say, "Germany ne mara. Germany did it." And now, very simply, Germany is fighting Russia on one side, France on the other, Britain on the other. And this is the First World War for you. And there are 3 to 5. I'll tell you, Garvit, why it is called World War. Don't worry. I will show it to you. But can we say that Germany is fully responsible for this? Can we say that Germany is fully responsible for this? Who is basically responsible for the First World War? Serbia? But ironically, nobody blames Serbia. This is how the First World War started. Now, before I give you a break and then I talk about the fronts and all, which is the story part, because the question is going to come from the causes, I'll give you one simple, straightforward advice. Never be Germany of 1914. See, Germany, everybody was jealous. Germany became very quickly very, very successful. You will also in your life do that for sure sometime. Very quickly, you will become very successful. People will become jealous of your success. But Germany's biggest fault was their arrogance. Their behavior, which was dictated by the Moroccan crisis and the Britain and Russia pact, is why Germany could have easily avoided this fate. The Germans will start to now feel the pain in 1914, and the pain will not stop till 1992. For 80 years, they will suffer because a German was not able to keep their cool, and all these tendencies which were developing throughout Europe will in turn lead to them becoming a major victim of the politics. And you will see how the Treaty of Versailles is literally going to target Germany, because Germany was the one target which Britain wanted. Now, please don't tell me that it is a European war. It will become a world war. Everybody is not dumb to call it a world war. Japan will get involved, Austria will get, America will get involved, India was already involved. As it is called a world war because all these countries have colonies. So when Britain is fighting, India is already fighting. When France is fighting, Indochina is fighting. When Russia is fighting, all of Russia is fighting itself. So don't come to the conclusion. This is half of the story. So when I'll end the course of the First World War, I'll give you a master timeline. And when I'll give you the master timeline or master flowchart, it will make sense. But before I give you, here it is Austria, but Austria is useless more or less. First and foremost thing, now does the backstory actually make sense to you? Why I have been talking about tendencies. Now, do you understand the value of these tendencies? Why these tendencies are so important in our story? These tendencies explain that why did Europe respond in the way it did in 1914. Now, when I come back, I will give you the official things which you need to write in the examination, which is what are the causes of the First World War. The story of the First World War is nobody's business of writing in 250 words. So I will tell you to just enjoy and listen to the story of how America got involved, how Japan got involved, the Western Front, the Eastern Front, what happened. And thereafter, we'll talk about the significance, which is the Treaty of Versailles and the prelude to the Second World War. So very simply, this is how the First World War started. I want you to think about it. I've given you an analogy that should make sense to you. But when I come back, I will now give you, and you can see here, see, Austria blamed Serbia and sent an ultimatum. Serbia accepted everything but one demand. 28th July, German support, Austria declared war on Serbia. Austria declared war on Serbia. 29th, Russia started mobilization on western border. 1st August, Germany attacked Russia when Russia refused mobilization. 3rd August, Germany attacked France. And by 4th August, Britain attacked Germany when Germany violated Belgium neutrality. And this is basically your First World War. So now when I come back, I will discuss with you the course of the First World War. I leave you on this slide. Think about it. Think about that analogy. It should help you summarize. We will come back at 7:10. And when we come back at 7:10, we will summarize everything together. And we will very simply talk about the First World War. Great. Thank you and see you at 7:10. Welcome back. Okay. We have to discuss causes, then course, and then significance. Now, this is where the questions come from. No questions till now. And as it is, it's too long to ask any question generally. To ask any question generally, it is too long already. So let's talk about the causes. And now causes in a formalized way. How you'd have to write it in the examination. So the first is the alliance systems. What the alliance systems do is that they create suspicion, repeated humiliation of the countries, an arms race who will have more weapons, and nationalism comes to at a boil, and war seems to be the only solution, which you already know. Thereafter, the biggest cause for the First World War to happen was rabid nationalism. Rabid means rotten. 19th century was the century of nationalisms, we already know. But with Balkan nationalism becoming more and more intensified, Europe had already come at the verge of fighting with each other multiple times. Alsace and Lorraine is what France wanted, and the nationalism was based about Alsace and Lorraine. Italy also wanted something called the Trino-Trist area from Austria. It did not get that when they were fighting the Austrians first. Serbia already we know wanted Greater Serbia, which is Serbia plus Albania plus Bosnia, either combination. And the Polish people are also fighting for their independence within Russia, but that is insignificant to this story. Very simply, nationalism at this point of time had become very, very aggressive. It's called aggressive nationalism. Aggressive nationalism. It's very aggressive. They want solutions for things very quickly. Thereafter comes the third major role, which was played by the press. And this is something which we see today and can see today in India also, which is that when it comes to governments, when they try to reconcile or they try to take a conciliatory attitude, you tend to mock your governments. That our governments are impotent, they can't do anything. Why are you not going for this solution? You would have seen they will start to show how many MiGs we have, how many Rafales we have, how many tanks we have. If there are two basic war, what will happen? What will be the consequence? This is called nationalistic press. The press has a propaganda, and that is to create pressure on the government. So if anybody wants to have a conciliatory attitude, it becomes difficult because the press now becomes nationalistic. They want solution for everything, and war is the solution. And ironically, this press, once the war will end and there will be destruction, they will say, we didn't know better, we are the press, but you knew, why did you fight? They will push the leaders, they will push the government, but when it will come to actually doing something concretely, they will not do it. They will very simply push and create pressure on the government, but they will never try to bring diplomatic solutions to be the real solutions. These are three fundamental issues which generally Europe has. Add to it, we already know, colonial and naval rivalries, which is that the Moroccan crisis was because Germany wanted a colony. Naval rivalry will be there because who will have better navy is more important. And in that, the naval race and the economic rivalry, where it is Germany versus England, where it is about the fact that Germany wants more and more colonies, but it also wants to be the biggest power. The German capitalists wanted to have war because it boosts their position and their demand. And add to it the fact that the British will introduce a new type of ship during this period. This is called a dreadnought ship. This is called a dreadnought ship, dreadnought class ship. See, before dreadnoughts, there used to be those ships which you've seen in Pirates of Caribbean, or old style, what we call as ships which are made out of wood. So wood, the ship is very, very weak. The cannons are in the hull. It's very easy to break. But now the British have introduced modern ships, which are dreadnought steel-based ships, which have their cannons on the deck, very heavy, very quick ships. And this will, in a way, make all ships obsolete at this point of time. But if that was not enough, the Germans will also respond. The Germans will respond by what are called U-boats. U-boats are the precursor of submarines. The Germans will develop U-boats, and while on the other hand, the naval race will be now based between the dreadnoughts and the U-boats. So the naval race between dreadnought and U-boats of the Germans is going to become very, very important. Then, last but not the least, it is inter-country rivalry, which is that Austria-Serbia, Russia-Serbia support, Germany-Austria support, and then the series of miscalculations, which is that Austrians and Germans thought that Russians will not support Serbians. Germany thought that the war is not going to become a world war. Germany and Russia thought that mobilization will not mean war. And Germany then ignored the Britain when it came to Belgium neutrality. All based on miscalculations, all based on what we call today as the concept of overconfidence and the 9 tendencies working together. So in the examination, there will be one question which is cause. I think you are capable of writing the causes of the First World War. If you are, then I would like you to then sit back and enjoy the course of the First World War. Can I do that? I'll give you a master flowchart for the course. Don't have to worry about that generally. Are we all on the same page right now? And can we very simply shift to the larger concept of the course? Yes? Miscalculation is that you want the first point to be repeated. Austria, Germany never thought that Russians will support the Serbians. That is obviously there because the Russians never supported the Serbians previously. Okay. The course is important for PSIR. The course is generally important to know what happened. A lot of things will come to you when you will talk about the First World War. For example, the Zimmermann plan, how India has got connected with it. You will see. PPT cause is sufficient. Himanshu have already written all the 9 tendencies. You all write all of these together. Your answer is done. Now, pay attention. Let's talk about the course. Again, here I'll tell you a story and then we'll look at the PPT. Okay, let's talk about the first year, 1914. Now, very important point, please understand this point. The countries, Germany and Austria, are not called Axis powers. Axis power is a word which is used for Second World War. They call Central powers, not Axis. And Britain, France, Russia are called Allied. That will remain the same for both the First and the Second World War. But now here there are 2 powers. You have Germany and Austria. You have France. You have Britain. And you have Russia. You had Serbia here. You had Belgium. Now, very simply, the story is very straightforward, that the Germans and rather I'll keep it in different colors. Wait 1 second. Okay, now Germany's already attacked Russia. It attacked France via Belgium. Yes, while all of this happening is Japanese are industrializing. Yes. Now Britain has already attacked Germany. Now this type of warfare is a straightaway no-no, which is that what Germany did was it that it created two fronts, the Western Front and the Eastern Front. Never in war you create two fronts. For the British and the French, they're fighting on one front. For the Russians also, they're fighting on one front. But the Germans, in their foolishness, are fighting on two fronts, both in East and West, which fragments the army. Now, both have a different story when it comes to the 1914 year. See, in the Western Front, Germans have initial success. But what happens is that Germans have initial success. But the problem is that whilst Germany overwhelmed France and Belgium, Britain pushed Germany back. It is believed that Germany was just 30 kilometers away from the Paris sector. But as soon as the British crossed over the English Channel and came into France, the British pushed the Germans back, and very quickly the Western Front becomes what is called a stalemate. Stalemate means that nobody can go forward or backward. There is what is called as a trench warfare at this point of time. Trench warfare, which you would have seen that people stand in trenches and there are basically lines which are there. So they will hold a line. But the problem with trench warfare is very slow and very, very, very brutal for troops. So they have to wait on lines on certain trenches for months. So one thing is very, very clear that the Germans cannot defeat the British and the French in this sector, and it is a stalemate. Neither can the British and the French push the Germans, and neither the Germans can push the French or the British. It's a stalemate. It's a draw. But on the other side, which is the Eastern Front, the Russians mobilize quickly, by which they take Germans and the Austrians as surprise. But Germany wins different sectors from Russia periodically. So basically, this is not a stalemate, but Germans are kept interested. But then you would say, sir, if there's a stalemate and the Germans are not getting a lot in the Russian front. Why don't they compromise? But the problem in Europe is what during this period? In 1914. What is the issue in 1914? Ego, and the issue is no compromise. We will not compromise only. So within the first year of the war itself, while the Western Front became a stalemate, the Eastern Front, little bit of success is there, which Germans are interested in. They are getting their small victories, so they are interested in the war. Anybody has any issue in this story? Again, story is written in the PPT also. Just give me a basic overview that it's making sense. Okay. Yes, Gagan could have said it. Okay. Now comes the interesting year of 1915, late 14, 15. Now we already have Britain, France, and we have Russia on this side. On the other, we have Germany and Austria together in this, the Central Powers. They're called the Allied Powers. Now, Britain, France, what they do is that they want to create one more front, which can be created in the southern sector if Italy gets involved. And now Britain and France go to Italy and say to Italy that if we remember well, don't you want Trino Trist area from Austria? So the British and the French say to Italy that go take Trino Trist, we'll help you. So what the British and the French do is that they add Italy to their side. And now Italy attacks Austria from the southern front. So now there is one more front which is created, Western, Eastern, and now a new front which is the southern front. And it's over the Trentino Trist area. So now Britain and Germany and Austria are in a way outnumbered. So now the Germans go to a power and they say to the Ottomans that if we remember well, you hate the Russians. And the Ottomans say, yes, we hate the Russians. So now Germany seeks alliance with the Ottomans, and the Ottomans attack Russians. And the Ottomans are given one standard task: do not allow Russians to enter naval war. So their thing was hold on to the Dardanelles Strait, which the Ottomans were capable enough to. So now you see, by 1915, the war has now become continental, which is all of Europe is involved. So now you have Germany plus Austria plus Ottomans, whilst you have Britain, France, Italy, and Russia. But the problem is that still this is a stalemate. And again, little success. So the 1915 year, there is a mushrooming. The area of the First World War has increased. Now, 1915, any issue? 1915, any issue? No? Okay. Ottomans get involved because they are the common enemy of Russia. Now, you have Britain, France, Italy, Russia, and you have Serbia is watching this mess getting created. Germany, Austria, Ottomans. Why would the Ottomans attack Russia? Rashmi, you tell me why in the Great Eastern Crisis were the Ottomans attacked by Russians? No, Santosh. No. We'll talk about that. Yes or no, Rashmi? Have the Ottomans or have the Russians been a problem for the Ottomans throughout 1800s? So that is the reason. But now things become interesting in this period. See, now one thing is very clear. Land battle, nothing is going to happen. The trench warfare has now gone on for 2.5 years. Nothing really is happening. So now the things become a little more about, now in 1916, very simply, it becomes a naval warfare based world war. Naval warfare based world war. Now, very simply, the reason being, just give me 1 second. Now, as I said, now it becomes a naval war because there is a stalemate here and nothing is going to move nowhere, and there is no real change here. So now the Germans used to have German Pacific colonies. So in the Polynesian sector, they had 2-3 colonies. So what the British do is that they contact the Japanese. And the Japanese are given the role to take away these colonies away from the Germans. So the British invite Japan to take away German Pacific colonies. Now Japan, which had now industrialized, felt very, very proud of itself, and it will very quickly, Japan will very quickly conquer this sector, because they were happy. And now it is all about, it's quickly this sector. Now it's all about, very simply, the concept of, let me change the color. It's about a naval blockade. It's about a naval blockade. that you basically starve the where is the German Pacific colony? Sahel, in the name itself, the area is Pacific Ocean, Polynesian sector. So the plan was Allied plan to choke the Central Powers and their supplies. Now, very simply, the British are impacting German supplies. So would the Germans feel happy about it? Would the Germans feel happy about it? No. Now the Germans, what they do is what they respond. And at this point of time, the biggest supplier of Britain and France was America. America chose to be outside the war and enjoy the profits of it. So basically, it was supplier of everything to the allies. And they are supplying guns, even money and food, everything. So the Americans very simply were profiteering from war. And the American war and the American ships used to therefore take all the things to the British and the French, and Germany could see that. Now what will happen is that the Germans will now target these supplies. The Germans will respond by attacking neutral USA ships to respond to blockade. Now, if I'm an American, and in two instances, Lusitania and Sussex, the two ships which were destroyed by the Germans, and in this both civilians and soldiers die. As an American, will I feel happy that the Germans are targeting neutral ships, Lusitania, Sussex? No. So now you can see that the area of war is starting to spread more and more. And by 1916, it has literally become a naval war. The land war, nobody is moving nowhere. It is basically the US as a supplier of Britain and France, and Germany, which is having what are called U-boat campaigns, which is they will start to have convoy system in which the merchant ship will have two, what we call as two military ships with it. However, the Germans will use what we call as U-boats, which are submarines, to hit it. Still, the US did not choose to join the war. Still, US chooses to not join war. Still, the US does not want to join the war, but this will change in 1917. Can I discuss 1917, the fateful year of 1917? Are we clear with regards to 1916, the level it is? Okay. Now, in the USA, Britain, France, Italy, Russia, Japan, and you have the Germany, the Austrians, Austria, and the Ottomans. Now, what will basically happen are two things. What will basically happen is two things. Sir, what did US do by attacking? Sir, what US did by attacking their ships? US is not attacking their ships. Germans are attacking US ships. Britain and France are giving protection. What happened to the Serbians? They are not in the picture only. They started it and then they started to watch this drama tamasha happening across Europe. Now, Germany handled these big powers because it has very big industrial capacity. Now you see, there will be two things which will happen. Germany will keep on hitting neutral USA merchant ships, American public opinion changing. And the point was that at this point of time, the president of the US, Woodrow Wilson, was not very convinced that he should enter a war. They were happy to take all the profits. But now what happens is Germany thinks that the US is enjoying this war because it is not involved. US is enjoying this war because it is not involved in the war. So the Germans now think of Mexico. Mexico is the southern part of the peninsular, which is basically the American continent, North American continent. Mexico is the smaller, the southern neighbor of the US. And the Germans now contact the dictator of Mexico. And what the Germans want, the Germans want the Mexicans to attack the USA and export the war to the American continent. Basically, the Germans said that you are enjoying all of this because you are not part of this war. So let's do one thing, let's give you war also. So the potentiality was that the US would be attacked from its southern border. Would be attacked from the southern border. This is very famously called Zimmermann plan. Zimmermann was the foreign minister of the Germans, and the Zimmermann plan was very straightforward, which is that you send or you encourage the Mexicans to fight the Americans. But what the British are able to do, they intercept this telegram. And once they intercept this telegram, they send it to the Americans. And now Woodrow Wilson has no other choice. But in April of, not 2017, April of 1917, the USA will join the war. The USA will join the war. But something more significant will also happen in the other part of the world, is that in December of, again 27, of 1917, Russia will undergo, will rather, Russia will witness the Russian Revolution and USSR will exit the war. So in 1917, America enters but Russia exits. Tomorrow we have to discuss what was the Russian Revolution. So you have to hold on for 24 hours to tell. I'll tell you why the Russian Revolution happened. But the Americans will enter in 1917 and the Russians will exit in 1917. April the Americans will enter and the Russians will exit in December. So a better ally came onto the British front. They had a better ally come through, which is the Americans. And very simply, anybody has issue with the year of 1917? America enters, Russia exits. We will discuss why does Russia exit tomorrow. Okay, very good. Now, 1918, the Mexican front never came into existence. Zimmerman plan was intercepted. If even before anything would happen, America entered. Now, in 1918, the USA, Britain, France, and Italy will therefore go after the Germany, Austria, and Ottomans. And while there will be an early year offensive on the Allies, the US will bring in fresh soldiers and its industrial power. And very simply, the monster, the giant, had now been awakened. Americans sitting out of it. Japan will just, the role was to just be there as a, Japan is still there, but it has no role. The only role it had was this. Why would the Ottomans not exit? Because the Ottomans are already useless. Germany is the only one which is fighting. And the monster called the Americans have now been awakened. Their isolation from all this politics had now created a very strong power. And in November of 1918, Germany will surrender and World War I will end within 1 year of the American entry. And what will follow is the Treaty of Versailles. Now, does the First World War story make sense to you? If it does, I'll give you one slide in which all of this can be summarized. One slide, everything can be summarized. Yes? Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's look at the PPT and then I'll give you the summary. German advance into France through Belgium. Germany was stuck in Belgium due to strong resistance. United Kingdom joined the war when Belgium neutrality was violated. Germany was unable to capture ports of the English Channel. Britain gained access to European mainland. At the Battle of Marne, French pushed the Germans back when they were only 20 miles away from Paris. Did Serbia ever got anything it wanted? No. Till today, Serbia is a landlocked country, I will tell you. But the map will change multiple times now. Treaty of Versailles is going to create a new map. Thereafter, on the eastern front, Russia mobilizes more quickly than expected. Russians invaded Austria, Germany simultaneously. They were overwhelmed. Germany drove Russians out of Germany, or Germany drove Russians out of German state and invaded Russia. German self-confidence boosted. Turkey entered the war on German side. Russia entirely. This is 1915, late 14. However, Germany was now fighting on two fronts. In the year of 1915, stalemate on the Western Front. Russia had some success against the Austrians but defeated by the Germans. Turkey successfully blocked the Dardanelles Strait sector itself, and the campaign of the Allies against Turkey was not very complete or fully a failure. And Italy entered the war against Austria-Hungary. Mexico never entered, Priyanka. That was only a proposed plan. Now, from 1916 onwards, a blockade was created on the Central Powers, keeping their own sea routes open, transporting British troops to the continent. Central forces could not use the navy well. Allied forces searched neutral ships, confiscated doubtful goods. Germans retaliated with submarine attack, unrestricted submarine warfare U-boat campaign. Central powers now attacked neutral ships. British adopted a convoy system. However, U-boat campaign brought USA into the war itself. In 1917, the US entered large scale investment in the Europe. So if Europe loses or if the allied powers do, who will give the money back? Trading relationship was also there. US gave large loans to the allied countries. Submarine campaign, US citizens were also getting killed. Discovery that the Germans were enticing Mexico to declare war on USA, which is Zimmerman plan. Withdrawal of the Russians in the context of the Russian Revolution. And thereafter, in the spring offensive, nothing will happen. Allied will have the counter offensive on 8th August. And on November of 1918, the armistice, the ceasefire will be signed. Central powers will lose. Why did the Germans lose? Two fronts. Sea power of the Allies was better. Failure of the German submarine campaign. Able leaders on the Allied side, which is the Allies were generally very good. Entry of the US. Spanish flu, which is a flu like the COVID-19, killed more people, more German soldiers in the Spanish sector and the Italian sector than anything else. Germany did not have good allies. It had useless allies. Austria is already a dead power. Ottomans are even more dead. Continuous strain on the Germans because they have to move around their troops quite a lot. So while the British and the French had very good allies, the Germans will always, and in the Second World War, will have very useless allies because Austria and Ottomans are useless allies. As it is, Britain also has India. So India is already a very major advantage which the British has generally. No, the Spanish flu was not hatched intentionally. Why was the war so long? Because both sides were fairly matched. It became a global conflict, so more and more powers got involved. Strongly held war aims that everybody wanted to destroy everyone else. Everybody was ready to support the war, and the Russian defeat by the German hands encouraged German generals, and entry of the US got prolonged, which also made the war long, because very simply between 1914 to 1918, these 4 years, the war was never expected. So the simple straightforward point is, it starts with a straightforward frontal war. Frontal war. That's a hypothetical question. Would have Germans win with good allies? Sure, why not? Then it becomes the mushrooming, Italy and Ottomans. Then naval warfare, 1916. 1917, the entry of the Americans, exit of the Russians. And the last but not the least, the German offensive. Thereafter, the counteroffensive. America was very powerful. And this in turn meant the Treaty of Versailles. Now, I want to give you a gist on one slide. Can I do that? Because then I will start to analyze the war. Okay. Now this is called the master timeline. Called master timeline. Pay attention. Yes, Japan's involvement was only to capture Pacific colonies. Yes. Okay. So you have the USA, Britain, Belgium, France, Italy, Germany, Austria, Russia, Japan, and the odd one out in the story. So let's summarize the whole war. Let's summarize the whole war. Each color represents a year, right? Each color represents a year. So let's take 1914. Austria on Serbia, Germany on Russia, Germany on Belgium via France, Britain on Germany. So let's write this down also in sequential manner. Austria declares war on Serbia. Russia mobilizes. Germans attack when mobilization doesn't stop. Attack France via Belgium. Belgium neutrality violated. Now comes the year of 1915. Italy attacks Austria. Ottomans attack Russia. So only two things. 5, 6. Italy on the side of Britain and France. Ottomans join Central Powers, attack Russians. Thereafter, (1916) Japan and so there are 7, 8. Japanese take Pacific colonies of Germans on request of British. USA emerges as major supplier. Germany retaliates by attacking neutral American ships. Lusitania and what we call as Sussex. Thereafter comes the fateful year of 1917. I can't see 1917. Which colors do I have? This only. You will have two things together. Ten, 11. USA enters war after Zimmerman plan exposed and Russia exits war. And 19 Germany surrenders. Does this now make sense? One slide, everything is there. This is how you revise. 13 moves, follow the color, and you will understand the whole story. Still stuck at 2 and 3, Vivek. Russia mobilizes. Germany attacks when Russia says no mobilization. 10, I can see. Germany retaliates by attacking neutral ships. West. Suraj, I can see there. Amit, again 10. Germany retaliates by attacking. I have a screen there which shows everything, which you can see, I can see also. Okay. If it is removed, Germany retaliates by attacking neutral American ships, Lusitania and Sussex. Germany was erased only. So Germany, write Germany. Everybody can't see Germany. So I'll write Germany again. Germany. अब दिख रहा है? Mostly if you refresh, you will be able to see. Okay. You can't see 10 also. Suraj, refresh, you will see it. Magic will happen. Okay. Now, in this itself, the causes are also there, the course is also there, and how it ends is also there. So if all of this is clear, I would like to discuss the impact. Yeah, in a way, Germany destroyed its own. The point is, Germany responded in the wrong way. Germany could have avoided war here. Why Japan entered as it got nothing? Kampal, you don't know it got nothing or not, I'll tell you that. Yes, Britain always had geographical advantages. Being an island nation, it is having geographical advantage, which Hitler will be able to overcome a little bit. Yeah, it's a war which was literally avoidable. Fully avoidable war it was. Yes, worst decision to make USA join. Yes. But US would have joined either way because the British were creating pressure on the US to join. So that is something which would have happened either way. But yeah, Zimmerman plan accelerated that. Okay, now let's try to analyze the war. We know that it started as a localized war. It became a global conflict by 1914. Yes, how a regional issue became basically, it was all Austria versus Serbia. But you see how the Serbians took the match and burnt the European sector by their nationalism. So they are that notorious kid who took all the petrol which was there in the house, put it on in the house, took a small match and then burnt it, and everybody was still inside. And they saw this whole European sector burning, and they will not even get the right treatment, or the punishment for the first world war will not be given to Serbia, but rather it will be given to Germany, because the jealousy of the Germans, the jealousy of the British and the French was so much that they wanted the Germans to die. I will tell you that. Now let's try to analyze it. We start as a local, then it becomes a global, because by 1918 most of the global population was part of this war, and somebody had to take some side for sure, because neutral countries did not exist at this point of time. Now, there are four characteristics of this war which are very, very important for you. Which is that, so does delimitation of Germany take place now? Firstly, the word is not delimitation, that's an election word. But you will see, yes, in a way, Germany's borders will be changed, that Hitler is going to undercut. Okay. What from Germany of 1914? Please explain. Vivek, explain your question first, then I will explain what you want me to explain. I don't think Serbia was to blame. It had its own interest in mind. Germany had ball in the court whether. No, Garvit, that is technically not true. Serbians went too far. Serbians went too far by shooting an Austrian. Killing the head of state of some state is too much. Basically, Russians had nothing to win in this war, but they still responded. That is the irony of the story. You can see it in any way or form. It's an illogical war. It's an illogical war. Okay. Is there any British role in India that can come in examination? Not from this section. It will come from the modern India section, not from world history. The role of India was to supply soldiers. If you actually know your modern India, can anybody tell me the direct impact of the First World War to a national moment? A major thing happened. It's not it's non-cooperation, but within non-cooperation, something very important. Khilafat is one, but one more thing. Dandi March is 31. You're saying Jallianwala Bagh, but you know something about Amritsar violence, 10th April 19. Yes, 19, the Amritsar violence which happens just before the non-cooperation. You're going into non-cooperation. I'm still in Rowlett. 10th April 1919, there will be something called Amritsar violence. Anybody has any recollection of that? Any fact you want to push for the Amritsar violence for me? Have you heard? Have you heard the name Marcella Sherwood? The way a nun got beaten up in the city of Amritsar, and the way close to 5 to 6 Europeans were burnt alive in the different parts of Amritsar. If you don't hear it, no, it's not Chauri Chaura. Chauri Chaura is 22. This is, see, the 10th April violence of Amritsar is basically linked to the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. But 10th April can only be explained because the British employed a lot of soldiers from India, and most of these soldiers came from Punjab. And because Punjab had actually contributed quite a lot to the war itself, they were expecting a reward from the British. However, what they got was the Rowlatt Act. And as soon as they got the Rowlatt Act, and Gandhi called for on 6th April 1919 the Hartal, Saifuddin Kichlev and Satyapal are going to get arrested under Rowlatt Act. And the violence or the anger which will come on out on 10th is basically linked to the First World War. Rana Lajpat Rai, you're Prashant mixing up 1927 Simon Commission and the assassination, Saunders assassination. You're mixing up these two things. So your timelines are very mixed up. Rowlatt, Jallianwala Bagh, NCM, Chauri Chaura. Thereafter you have Simon Commission, then you have the CDN. So violence of 10th April, Amritsar violence it is called, the prelude to Dyer coming to Amritsar itself, is basically linked to this moment. So trying to create a certain connection between the two, which is very simply there and very direct. But I don't know how you've gone through modern India and you've gone through all of this without having this discussion. This is the irony here, that without having a discussion about Punjab's contribution to the First World War, you cannot talk about Jallianwala Bagh or why Dyer was there and why there was a allegedly false martial law on 13th April. So don't worry, this should be there. What is Amritsar violence? 10th April 1919, just 3 days before the Jallianwala Bagh. Jallianwala Bagh was a revenge for 10th April, which is Amritsar violence. Okay. Germany of 1914 means Germany of 1914, which is Germany in 1914 did not respond in the right way. Okay. Result, Chandrajyoti, I am coming to. First, understand the war itself. Can I do that? Result is the Treaty of Versailles, which is the first and foremost reason for the Second World War. Okay. Now when we talk about the 4 characteristics of this war itself, the first is total control over society, which is total control over society, which is that for the first time we saw a war in which every part of society was part of the war. And what is even more problematic is that previously there used to be a blurring line between soldiers and civilians. But the nationalism of this time was so bad that killing a Britisher was doing national service. Killing an German was doing national service. It was not about soldier. A civilian was also equally the biggest target of these wars. Killing a Britisher, a citizen of British, was enough. And the third most interesting thing, which we already have discussed, is rejection of compromise. Nobody wanted to compromise. But when it comes to the larger context of the First World War, we have never seen mobilization at the level which it happened vis-a-vis the way the civilians actually fought or the soldiers actually fought. All production capacity linked to wars. Weapons were produced at an astonishing rate. Never known. Inventions were done only for the military. And the only one who profited were industrialists and the Americans. And the worst of the worst was that forced conscription, which is once you reach a certain age, you would have to go and fight in the war. So very simply, this was called total warfare. Total war. Meaning society, economy, polity, everything was linked to the war itself. Everything was linked to the war itself. Conscription is when you have to get enlisted in the army. Forced means that if you want it or you don't want it, all countries after the age of 18, you would have to go to the war. And why is it important that these things are something which actually have an impact on Europe? Is when you see certain charts. First is the number of casualties in the country. Now, if you look at the chart, then you will realize how 3 crore people were dead. We can talk about world wars. We can talk about how all this is comical. But then in all of this, there was a tangible consequence. In Russia, 12 million, which means you have 1 million is 10 lakh. So 1.2 crore or 12 million people were mobilized for the army, which is that they were asked to join the army itself. And 9 million were dead. 9 million were dead. 90 lakh died. In Germany, 1.1 crore people were mobilized. 70 lakh died. Great Britain and the Empire, which is India, 90 lakh, 30 lakh died. France, close to 70 lakh, 60 lakh died. Austria, 80 lakh mobilized, 70 lakh dead. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. The level of casualty which was there at this point of time was unparalleled. Unparalleled. This is what I told you. This is because of the Industrial Revolution. Because now you could kill lakhs of people in one go. This is what is the First World War. And to give you a prelude, in the Second World War, 8 crore will die. 3 crore. We joke about world wars. 3 crore people are dead. 3 crore people are dead. And this isn't a joke. And if you look at the economic impact, except for one country, which is United States, all countries saw only destruction. While the population increased with debt, little bit increasing, and GDP also increasing for the Americans with positive industrial growth and the least inflation. For most of the European countries, population fell, GDPs fell, debt skyrocketed, highest amount of inflation in Germany itself, and industrial production was negative in most of these countries. The social impact was such that the people now started to become atheists. The people started to become atheists because they believed that if God is there, then how can there be war? So the total destruction which happened in this war was $400 billion. European economy destroyed. Structure of international trade changed, with US increasing its share from 10 to 20%, within 4 years. Over expansion of economy will lead to one of the biggest depressions also, which I will discuss with you, the Great Depression. And Japan and China will start to industrialize in the context of what actually happened. Now, socially, the exact number is 8.5 million dead, 85 lakh. But if you add all the things which India contributed, everything contributed, it comes to 3 crore, 30 million. A whole generation was lost to war, which is called the war generation. Imagine at the age of 18 to 25, you go to war and your family loses all 18 to 25 people. There is war pessimism and disillusionment in Europe. People start to stop believing in God. Anti-war attitude, but thereafter, now these countries start to rebuild. But the biggest, and this is the last point I will make with you, is the political impact. Now, the political impact is that now through the Treaty of Versailles, Europe will get a new map. Europe will get a new map. Now, pay attention to 2 to 3 things. They will go through, and pay attention, they will go through what is called the Treaty of Versailles. And the Treaty of Versailles is single-handedly considered the worst treaty of the world. It is the worst treaty of the world because, firstly, Germans were not asked to talk about their perspective. They were just given this treaty to sign. And now, the British and the French will take out their jealousy against the Germans. France said that kill the Germans so that they never raise their head against anybody ever. But the British said that if we kill the Germans, who will pay us for the war? And herein comes the clauses of the war. While Woodrow Wilson talked about the 14 points of Woodrow Wilson, that there should be no internal alliances, this and that, the point of the matter was the clauses were very dangerous. So, at the Great Palace of Versailles, all these victor powers met with Germany not even being there. And the Germans were made to sign this on 28th June 1919. Now, Alsace-Lorraine is given back to France, what they always wanted. A little bit of part is given to Denmark, which has also played an important role for the British. A new map will be created, which I will show you before I leave for today. But what is more important is how Germany was humiliated. This is why you never ever humiliate somebody so much that they come after you. Germans, they said that you can only have 1 lakh troops. Nobody in the Rhineland area, which is their most fertile area. No tanks, no armored cars, no aircrafts, no submarine. Only 6 battleships to protect. Thereafter, the war guilt clause, that whose fault was the war, was pushed on the Germans. Not justified, because at the end of the day, this clause should be for Serbia also. And the worst of the worst was a body which was created, which is going to be to turn out the worst body of the whole world, the League of Nations, which was created to have no wars again, but the Second World War will happen. But this is the real intention of the Europeans, and this is a very important point. This is called War Reparation Clause. 6,600 million pounds was now going to be paid by Germany to all the victor countries, because they said, "Hame to war chahiye nahi tha. We did not want war. So, because you started the war, pay." Because previously, this is why Britain said that don't kill the Germans. If you are the French said, let's do one thing. Let's cut the hands of the Germans and the legs of the Germans and let them beg. But the British said that if we do that, then who will pay for this money? Keep them alive so that they can pay for this amount. And this is why the Treaty of Versailles is considered the worst of the worst treaties across the whole spectrum itself. And tomorrow, when I come back, I will discuss the reason why Russia left, which is the Russian Revolution and the ideologies, Marxism, socialism, communism, we will discuss tomorrow. But on Friday, we will discuss this map, which is the reason why the Second World War happened, from the creation of the Polish sector, from Czechoslovakia to Austria to Hungary to Yugoslavia, why the Second World War happened. But today's class, very simply, this is the gist of everything we've done for today. I would just request you to go through it once again if you need to. Very simply, straightforward. I will see you tomorrow. We'll do Russian Revolution and the ideologies. On Friday, we discuss the reasons for what we call as the rise of fascism, Great Depression, and the build up to the Second World War. And we'll discuss the Treaty of Versailles again, but from our political perspective. Yes? Done? Okay. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow, same time, and we start Russian Revolution and the story of what we call as the Marxist and socialist understandings. Very simply, tomorrow. And remember, you now have a webinar, so do join it also. Thank you. Take care. Bye.